Island. Joe, I don't know what your temperature is going to be like today, but I bet you it's pretty hot, isn't it?
Pretty hot, and I'm hoping that the fact that we're closer to the shore brings it down a little bit. We have a little bit of a breeze right now, which I'm happy for.
Yeah, absolutely. Our conversation with Joe, and it's great to have him back with us this morning, presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. You can visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Joe is a retired New York Police Department lieutenant commander, so he seems like the perfect guy to ask. Joe, when police officers are working in heat like this, particularly if they're walking a beat, man, you got to stay hydrated. You got to keep cool, but people have to keep cool too. The tempers get a little bit short when it gets hot, don't they?
Oh, it sure does. And, the fact that they're geared up with the vest on and everything, it contains the heat a lot more. And believe me, from somebody who had to run up many stairs when the elevators were out with that gear on, I'm telling you something. It gets quite hot out there, and the tempers do seem to rise when people don't comply or they just want to be belligerent. So you try to work around that.
Yeah, I bet that's not the easiest job in the world. My goodness. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the real reason that we wanted to talk with you this morning, and that is certain states are considering legislation that would basically forbid police officers from pulling people over for certain traffic violations, just letting them go, which makes you question why the law is even on the books in the first place. But good idea, bad idea?
Horrible idea. Horrible idea, because you're taking away the basic premise of policing, which is a cop's gut instinct, or just the observant eye of a expired registration, taillight out, or broken lens, or just paper plates seem to be the new thing today that you can make on the computer, and you don't know who's legit, who's not. So cops are the first line of defense, and they have to be proactive in some of these things, and this is the way. Now, it's not saying that a cop is going to give somebody a summons necessarily when they stop them. They could say, sir, ma'am, whatever, that we have you have a taillight out, and please get it fixed, which is actually for the safety of the driver as well. But when you take that tool away and you turn around and say, even if you do find somebody that's committed a crime and this and that, they're going to take away the evidence from you as well, because that's what they're looking to do, because they know cops are going to continue to do their jobs. So they're going to try to stymie them on the court level.
What's the motivation behind it, though?
It's just another way for the extremists, on the far side of whatever politics they're following. I don't even call it Democrats anymore, because a true Democrat would never do this. Is just to control the police departments. And in New York City, we have a primary going on today that's going to be quite interesting. And one of the extremists that wants this is running for mayor. So imagine if that happens.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how far they will push. But I guess they'll only push as far as people will let them, won't they?
Well, the thing is, the city is controlled by extremists. This person is endorsed by AOC, which I don't see how AOC is an endorsement other than for extremism. That's it, because nothing that comes out of her mouth concerning politics is ever a valuable source of information. And yet they have this following that will challenge the police on every level.
I want to go back to something you said a couple of moments ago, and that is that if you do pull someone over and it's in violation of whatever this legislation decides is not worth pulling somebody over, and you see evidence in there of a crime in that vehicle, that evidence is tainted evidence in their eyes, and it's not admissible. So you could end up actually turning a real criminal free.
Absolutely. The defense attorneys will play on that, too, that they had no right to stop them as per city council law or whatever city ordinance they're going by. And I think that's just like a shame, because, like I said, the quality of life crimes are where everything starts. You can fight the broken windows theory all you want, not you per se, I'm talking about anybody, and they can turn around and fight it all they want, but it works. When you have that basic premise of quality of preserving the quality of life in any area, any municipality, all right, then you need to let the police officers do their job. And policing should not change with politics. It should be a basic premise of the first line of defense in this country, which we need. You shouldn't be fighting it. You should be enhancing it. But yet in these major cities, like New York City, you have a city council that dictates policy, and that's it.
How would something like this affect the morale of a police officer?
It destroys morale because the cops want to do their job. You might have, listen, we always had people that we call the house mouse, that would go in, study for tests, Mm-hmm. Mayor Adams was one of those. And the cops that want to get out there and do the job, they're not, they want to go out and they want to protect and serve. But they don't want the unnecessary restraints on them. And why I say unnecessary, because sometimes you do have a couple of bad actors that need to be reined in, that need to know the deal. But the majority, and I'm saying 99.9% of the cops want to do their job. And if you keep telling cops how to do their job other than the way they were trained, you have nothing but a Stepford Police Department that's going to just kowtow to any city council.
Go back, if you will, to the beginning of young Joe Cardinale's career as a police officer in New York City. And talk, if you would, about the atmosphere when you would come in to do your job back then as opposed to young guys entering the force today. I know that people are different in this day and age than they were back then, but the job seems to be so different as well.
Well, the job is very different. When I first came on, we had the back of the city, of the mayor. Even Giuliani, who never gave us the raises we wanted, but yet he still backed us up, and he was the toughest mayor and prosecutor on cops, but yet we did the job because we knew if we did our job according to the book, and they had our back, if there was a fatality in a shooting that we had to take lethal action against somebody, and we did it by the book and it was necessary, they weren't coming to take your job, put you in jail, or take your house away from you. And that was the whole thing back then. There was a camaraderie back then and an understanding that the city appreciated what I was doing, myself and the other cops were doing at the time. But they've, disintegrated the trust between the public and the police to the point that the public will go along with anything that the city council does. And who does it serve? The criminal element. So we don't have that anymore where it's John Q. citizens standing up for the cops and we want the same thing. You have it, it's there, but it's overshadowed by people that constantly want the criminal element protected.
Yeah, it sure seems like you're supposed to be the watchdogs over the city, but the watchdogs that are over you as a police officer, they're just as fierce. So you're trying to look ahead to see what you can see that might be a dangerous situation, but there's somebody nipping at your butt on the other end.
Correct, and that's called proactive policing. And today, police departments, I've said it time and time again, are reactive. They're reactive to whoever the political whims are or reactive to whatever the political climate is, depending. Something in California can offset what's happening in policing in New York City just because of an incident that they have to worry about. Ergo, the protests. The protests that are going on, and you see what cities will tolerate it, what cities won't, and you see it's prevalent in places like California and like New York City where they're allowed to get away with that. And in my day, it would never happen because even the Crown Heights riots, David Dinkins knew that he had to trust in his police department to take control back of the streets, and they did. And sometimes it takes extreme measures and everything, and then you have to, because if you have disorder in the streets and looting and everything else, never mind the quality of life, it just presents just a dangerous situation for society on a whole.
Yeah, and as I recall, the last time we spoke with you, we were talking about recruiting of police officers and how difficult that's become because of, number one, the dangers of the job, but number two, the uncertainty that your police force is going to be there to back you up.
Absolutely, and the fact that they are stretched so thin right now, so when you have, like New York City, when we're down thousands of numbers, not hundreds, thousands of numbers, you're doing more with less, and it's putting a lot of stress on the police officers that have to go out there and do double duty and mandatory overtime. And detectives who, instead of solving their cases, are put out onto the street to back up the patrol on these demonstrations. And the criminals know it, and they know they're so stretched so thin that they're going to get away with a lot more.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about a statewide law in New York. Minnesota is another state that is doing the same thing. Joe, I know that it's an extremely different situation if you're a police officer in one of the boroughs in New York versus our little town, Indiana borough near Pittsburgh. But it really is the same issue, right? If you don't get the backing of your municipality and of your police force, then it's going to make it awful difficult to do the job and awful difficult to find people who want to do the job.
Absolutely. And the problem we have in New York City is now you're scraping the bottom of the barrel just to replace, what you need through attrition alone. And then you have the people that are making the mass exodus that would stay another 5 years to bolster their pensions, and they won't. The city's trying to stretch the age a little bit so you keep the qualified officers. But what qualified officer is going to want to stick around and teach the other officers when their livelihood is on the line every single day for something that might happen within a group? You go out there and you supervise somebody and they don't like the way you do it, and they'll take everything away from you in one, swoop of the pen. And I really don't think that's the way policing should be. People, listen, we're under enough stress as it is. Cops are getting killed and maimed more than ever, all right? And it's because of the lawless mentality out there. So why would you compound it by undue stress on the cops? Suicides with cops are up right now tremendously. And it's because they feel it's a thankless job, yet they chose that occupation. You can't tell somebody, become a cop. It's a calling. You have to want this job. And if you're taking it because you're living in mommy and daddy's basement at 30 years old and they're telling you go get a job, I don't care if you become a cop, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah. Wow. Very well said by Joe Cardinale. You can check him out. His podcast is called The Night Court. That's Knight, like Sir Joe Cardinale with us here this morning. Joe, I appreciate it so much.
Anytime, my friend. Stay cool.
There you go. You too. There's Joe Cardinale with us this morning, retired New York Police Department Lieutenant Commander, talking about an interesting movement that is trying to pass laws that will forbid police officers from pulling people over for traffic violations.